From Denver, Colorado, this is Democracy Now! Special, expanding the debate.
Mr. President, you're entitled as a president to your own airplane and to your own house, but not to your own facts.
Where folks at the top are doing well, so the average person making $3 million is getting a $250,000 tax break, while middle-class families are burdened further. That's not what I believe is a recipe for economic growth.
We clearly are in a crisis now. People are losing their jobs, their homes, decent wages, affordable health care and higher education. Our civil liberties are under attack and the climate is in meltdown. Yet the wealthy few are making out better than ever.
This race is also about whether our nation will continue down the road toward totalitarianism.
Sound unfamiliar? As President Obama and Mitt Romney squared off for the first time, we break the sound barrier by expanding the debate in real time to include two candidates shut out by the major political parties, the Green Party's Jill Stein and the Justice Party's Rocky Anderson. Expanding the debate. This is what democracy sounds like. All that and more coming up. Welcome to Democracy Now!, democracynow.org, The War and Peace Report. I'm Amy Goodman. We're on the road in Denver, Colorado. President Obama and Republican challenger Mitt Romney squared off here in Denver Wednesday night in the first of three presidential debates. Trailing Obama in the polls of several battleground states, Romney sought to rejuvenate his campaign with an attack on what he called President Obama's policies of trickle-down government.
I'm concerned that the path that we're on has just been unsuccessful. The president has a view very similar to the view he had when he ran 4 years ago, that a bigger government, spending more, taxing more, regulating more, if you will, trickle-down government would work. That's not the right answer for America. I'll restore the vitality that gets America working again.
President Obama was more subdued in his comments, failing to make one mention of Romney's infamous 47% comments and his background at Bain Capital. Addressing Romney's tax plan, Obama said Romney's effort to cut taxes for the wealthy would lead to the gutting of essential government programs.
Well, for 18 months, he's been running on this tax plan. And now, 5 weeks before the election, he's saying that his big, bold idea is never mind. And the fact is that if you are lowering the rates the way you described, Governor, then it is not possible to come up with enough deductions and loopholes that only affect high-income individuals to avoid either raising the deficit or burdening the middle class. It's math. It's arithmetic.
Mitt Romney challenged Obama's assertion that his tax plan would cost the country $5 trillion in revenue, but did acknowledge he would cut spending on government programs while drastically increasing funding for the military. In a jab that quickly exploded on Twitter, Romney told moderator Jim Lehrer he would cut funds to his employer PBS despite his love for a certain Sesame Street character.
I'm sorry, Jim, I'm going to stop the subsidy to PBS. I'm going to stop other things. I like PBS. I love Big Bird. I actually like you, too. But I'm not going to keep on spending money on things to borrow money from China to pay for.
We'll expand the debate with third-party candidates after headlines. Turkey has launched strikes inside Syria after a bomb fired from Syrian territory killed 5 Turkish civilians. The victims were a family of 5 in a village near the Syrian border. The Turkish deputy prime minister said his government had every right to respond with force.
There has been an attack on Turkey's mainland, and its citizens lost their lives. There is definitely a response to it in international law. Turkey is a NATO member. Certain NATO treaty articles bring about certain responsibilities when one of its members is attacked. We are not blinded by rage, but we will protect our rights to the end in the face of such an attack on our soil that killed our people.
Wednesday's violence marked the deadliest cross-border flare-up between the two countries since the uprising in Syria began nearly 2 years ago. There have been unconfirmed reports Syrian troops were killed overnight. The Syrian information minister, Omran Zawabi, said his government is investigating the attack inside Turkey and offered condolences to the Turkish victims.
The authorities are investigating the fire source that led to the death of the mother and her children near the Syrian-Turkish borders. We console the family of the martyr and Turkish people who will remain brothers and friends.
The border violence between Turkey and Syria came hours after dozens of people were killed in a series of bombings in the restive Syrian city of Aleppo. Activists say the death toll stands at over 40 people, with another 90 wounded, most of them Syrian government forces. Scores of Iranians rallied in Tehran Wednesday to protest the collapse of the country's currency. The rial has hit an all-time low amidst a worsening financial crisis brought upon by Western sanctions, falling 40% against the dollar in just a week. Iranian forces reportedly clashed with the demonstrators and fired gas to disperse them. In Washington, Secretary of State Hillary Clinton said the Iranian government only has itself to blame for its economic problems.
I think the Iranian government deserves responsibility for what is going on inside Iran, and that is who should be held accountable. And I think they have made their own government decisions having nothing to do with the sanctions that have had an impact on the economic conditions inside the country. And of course, the sanctions have had an impact as well, but those could be remedied in short order if the Iranian government were willing to work with the P5+1 and the rest of the international community in a sincere manner.
Secretary of State Clinton, meanwhile, is vowing a full investigation of the alleged security lapses that led to the killing of 4 Americans at the U.S. consulate in Benghazi, Libya, last month. House Republicans have set a hearing for next week, following claims the State Department rebuffed pleas from U.S. officials in Libya for more security before the attack. On Wednesday, Clinton vowed a thorough probe.
Men and women who serve this country as diplomats deserve no less than a full and accurate accounting, wherever that leads. And I am committed to seeking that for them and for those who made the ultimate sacrifice in service to our nation. No one wants to determine what happened that night in Benghazi more than the President and I do. No one is more committed to ensuring it doesn't happen again. And nobody will hold this department more accountable than we hold ourselves.
Public school teachers in Chicago have voted to ratify the agreement that ended their historic strike last month. The deal calls for a double-digit salary increase over the next 3 years, as well as compromises over the contentious issues of teacher evaluations and job security. The ratification vote officially ends the strike, the first by Chicago teachers in 25 years. The Pennsylvania Supreme Court has upheld the stay of execution granted to a death row prisoner convicted of murdering his sexual abuser. Terry Williams was scheduled to die on October 3rd for the 1984 murder of Amos Norwood. Norwood had sexually abused Williams over a number of years, up until the night before Williams took revenge by ending Norwood's life. But last week, a state court halted the execution and ordered a new sentencing hearing over evidence prosecutors had withheld evidence of Norwood's molestation of Williams and other minors. Williams was convicted based on the prosecution's contention he'd been trying to rob Norwood before the murder, not seeking revenge for sexual abuse. Prosecutors had challenged that ruling, but on Wednesday, Pennsylvania's Supreme Court affirmed the stay. In a statement, Williams' attorney Sean Nolan said, quote, "The Philadelphia District Attorney's Office should stop its pursuit to execute Terry Williams. The time has now come for them to heed the call from the victim's widow, jurors, child advocates, victims' rights advocates, and over 380,000 petitioners who do not want Terry executed." Workers at Freeport, Illinois factory set for closure by Bain Capital have begun blockades to stop the removal of equipment from their workplace. Workers at Sensata Technologies have set up a 3-week encampment called Bainport across the street from the facility to protest plans to close the plant and move it to China, taking 170 jobs with it. Sensata is owned by Bain Capital, the private equity firm co-founded by Republican presidential nominee Mitt Romney. The workers say they plan to continue the blockades of trucks removing their equipment. For our broadcast from the Bainport encampment, you can go to our website at democracynow.org. and a Muslim American man who was wrongly detained after the 9/11 attacks has won the right to be tried. Abdullah Akhid was jailed for 15 nights under the federal material witness statute before being released. During his ordeal, he was repeatedly strip-searched and left naked in his cell. A federal appeals court later ruled then Attorney General John Ashcroft circumvented the Constitution after the 9/11 attacks to hold Al-Kid and other innocent men without charge. On Friday, a federal judge ruled Al-Kid was wrongly imprisoned and is entitled to challenge the government's misuse of the law in court. And those are some of the headlines. This is Democracy Now!, democracynow.org, The War and Peace Report. I'm Amy Goodman.